Great to see you. Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to today's panel discussion. Heroes Creating a League of Our Own, hosted by the Voice of Health. I will be your moderator for the evening. My name is Moturi. My day job is I'm a CEO of Korea Group of Companies, and right now I have the pleasure of hosting this panel discussion. But before we get started, a very happy Women's Day to the panelists here and to the audience as well. Welcome once again. So we have a very specially curated group of panelists who've been trailblazers in their own field and have created a league of their own. Okay, I'd like to start by introducing amazing group of women. To start with, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sunita Maheshwari, co-founder Teleradiology Solutions and RxDX Clinics. But most interesting about her title is it says Chief Dreamer and Loop Closer. Now, how fun is that? What a great title. I hope sometime during this panel discussion, you're going to actually talk about Dare to Dream, right? Which is really important for young women out there, young women and men out there, right? Next, I'd like to introduce Alka Goel, a powerhouse, if I may say so. Welcome. And she went from Lady Shriram to IIM, and then made IIM Ahmedabad, made partner at McKinsey Healthcare Practice, came all the way back to India to start Alchemy, be a founding partner at Alchemy Venture Partners, a very healthcare-based fund. And what's interesting about Alka, I think not too many people know, she was a talk show host. Now, how cool is that, right? So I think that's great, very multifaceted. Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Gracy Mathai, a veteran in hospital management and administration, 40 years under her belt, and held several C-suite positions, graduate of Tata Institute of Sciences, Mumbai, and now CEO of a 600-bedded hospital, Baby Memorial Hospital in Kerala. So welcome, Madam. Pleasure having you on the panel. Next, I'd like to introduce our next panelist, Poonam Bhargava, an edupreneur, founder and director of V. Anand Learning Academy, certified career counselor from UCLA. And what's great about Poonam is she has great interest in acting and debate. Now, I looked it up, Poonam, so I think that's great. So what a group of amazing, multifaceted women. Welcome again, and we're going to have a very exciting discussion today, I hope, and we're going to keep it very dynamic and informal. Okay, so I'd like to get started with just a very alarming fact. Really, I mean, according to the CS Gender 3000 report published by Credit Suisse at the end of 2019, India ranks 23 out of 56 countries in the space of women leadership, with only about 8.5% of the women occupying senior positions, as compared to 21% in North America and 19% in the rest of the APAC countries. So this is something I'd like for our audiences as well as our panelists to just weigh in upon a little bit. And I'd like to share with you our topic, the theme of the theme of the International Women's Day, which is choose to challenge, right? And I'd like to pose this question first to Mrs. Mathai. With 40 years under your belt, I'm sure every day it's a challenge, and you would not have gotten to this position without rising up to the challenge. So I'd like for you to share with the audience what this phrase means to you, choose to challenge, when it comes to your career? Please, Mrs. Mathai. We cannot hear you. Cannot hear you.
Okay. Can you hear?
Please. Yes, yes. Please continue.
To me, every day is a challenge. And without challenge, we cannot go forward. Challenge may be from your own colleagues, challenge may be from your counterpart, challenge may be from the other people. But you have to accept the challenge and go ahead. Be courageous. I just have one word to say that in order to accept this challenge, we have to be very courageous. And once you have taken a step forward, no turning back. That is what you have to look forward and then see that. And then wherever you are, that see that your wholehearted involvement in that particular task, whichever you are taken, and that is more than enough. And then consider your staff as your strength. That again, that will bring success to you.
Excellent. Very insightful. Thank you. I'd like to next call upon Dr. Sunita. For you, it would be great if you could share your, your viewpoint as what does this phrase "choose to challenge" mean to you when it comes to your career.
Yeah, I think, as a woman doctor, we have certain challenges, right? Managing life work balance and so on. But for me, as a going from being a doctor to being a medical entrepreneur was entirely new. So I would say choose to challenge was kind of choosing to challenge the status quo we see our careers in. So like for instance, I was told when we set up our teleradiology company, one of my fellow doctors said, "You're definitely going to fail." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." So I said, I think just, choosing to challenge the notions that others have of what we can or cannot do, and where our life can and cannot take us, and deciding, what's going to be our own challenge, our own path, the things we want to take on. I would say, that is what that phrase means to me. Similarly, we set up a chain of primary care clinics in Bangalore, and I'm a super specialist. I'm a cardiologist for children. So I was working at a heart hospital for 10 years, and I felt in India, everyone runs to the hospital for everything, and primary care is not given much importance. And I trained in the US, where primary care was really big. So we set up this chain, and again, everyone's like, you cannot make money in primary care. You can't be sustainable. You can't do it. And we have a chain of 30 clinics when, we're sustainable. We've been running it for 14 years. So I think choosing to challenge would be making a choice, and then sticking by that choice and sticking through the ups and downs of whatever then, comes along the way.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. That was very insightful. That's great. I'd like to then next call upon our next panelist, Alka. If you could please tell us all what the phrase "choose to challenge" means to you in your career, that would be great.
For me, choosing to challenge is something like choosing to believe in yourself. There will be a lot of naysayers, but at every point in my career, when people have said it can't be done, or frankly, people have not even said that, I just sort of ignore the noise and I start from first principles. How would I do it? How would I address it? And then just go on. And I don't know the end outcome of it, but the more I say yes, frankly, more opportunities open for me. So it just keeps going. There's no way I could have imagined 25 years back I would be on this sort of panel with you. Things keep working if you have self-belief, not exactly to what you had imagined, maybe even better, maybe even worse, and then more doors open. So it's actually having self-belief in yourself, and then starting from the foundation is what I have always believed in.
Great, great. Oh, that's really great. Now, Poonam, I'd like to call upon you, please, to answer the question, choose to challenge. What does this mean to you in your career?
Yes, thanks, Anu. Before I actually express what this means to me, a very happy Women's Day to all my co-panelists here and to everybody who's listening to us. So, these two words, choose. I mean, choose has a very beautiful connotation. It means freedom. It gives you the feeling that you can choose. You are empowered there only. And the second word, challenge, means that you will definitely overcome any obstacle. So basically, you have the right to attempt at setting goals for yourself. So for me, it is like in the education sector, since I hail from there and 20 years in the education sector. For me, specifically, it boils down to choosing challenges for my students and how at every step we either choose courage, we either choose empathy, we either choose determination, so that at every stage, a different customized choice for a different child can help us enable that for his betterment, for his growth. Thank you, Anu.
Yes, very nicely put. Wow. So many takeaways here, if I may say so, but one thread that I can definitely see is, that starts from dare to dream and believing in yourself and challenging the notions and really, all of this put together, bringing a sense of empowerment. And that to me, I think I could see with all of our panelists sharing with our audiences about what it means to choose to challenge. The next question for our panelists today is, I'd like to start with you, Poonam. If you could share with us who are the women who have inspired you in your journey and why, and how they've inspired you, both professional and personal, that would be great if you can share that.
Yes, thanks once again. So, I know inspiration for me is not just one woman. It has been all around me. It has been women, who I live with, women who come and help me lead my life. So there are a maid inspires me. A house help inspires me. My students inspire me, and I get inspired. In different areas. So all these. Absolutely accomplished women who are out there who give you very rich experiences from their journey. They act as like billboards for me if I have to cover a certain destination, and they inspire me cognitively. The rational inspiration I draw from them. Women like Dr. Brené Brown. She's a research professor, and she is talking about courage. She's talking about empathy and vulnerability and shame, and she has some wonderful insights which we can translate into our lives and as educators onto children and parents. So that is an inspiring woman for me. Also, we look at Oprah Winfrey, we look at another psychologist who's Dr. Nicole Lepere. So these are the women who really inspire me. And the little, emotive uh, inspirations that I draw from the gut are, from little children who we have to handle and deal with. So their innocent questions inspire you. So inspiration is all around us. So that is how I look at women who've
All
inspired
right.
me.
Thank you so much. Alka, if you can
Yeah.
share with us, please.
That is a very, very difficult question because, as Poonam said, there's inspiration around us every day. I mean, this just this morning I was talking to my maid and how she's managing her kids and what she's doing to afford them the education that they want. I mean, I'm sitting here privileged, and there she's doing whatever she can to make ends meet and still believe in education and still believe in a future she wants to give to her children. That itself is very, very inspirational. I frankly, every field I look at today in India, while the statistics you shared with us are shocking in terms of overall representation, women have broken the glass ceiling in pretty much every field, whether it is business, whether it is politics, whether it is athletics, whether it is, here sitting around in healthcare. There are just so many versions. You just have to go to their story, what made them choose the path they are on, and you'll find nuggets of inspiration everywhere. And at least that's how I live my life.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Very insightful. Dr. Sunita?
Yeah, as Poonam and Alka said, I think there's inspiration all around us if we choose to look for it. But I will give you two examples of I think what impacted me. My mother is American, but my father is Marwadi, and he actually comes from he comes from a village in Rajasthan. Was very self-educated, got himself to Wharton and so on. But my cousins, so all my chachas are in the villages in Rajasthan. And my cousins, I had one cousin when I was growing up who, in eighth grade, you stopped studying. And when we went to the village to visit, she came to my dad saying, Tauji, I want to study more. And daddy's not letting me. And so my father intervened because he was the eldest brother. And, she got to 12th grade, which was a big achievement for her. And I remember as a kid thinking, my God, I mean, she can't get past eighth grade. She's got to come to my dad. And I realized I am so privileged that no questions are asked. I'm treated the same as my brother. Both of us are whipped to clean up the table. We've grown up in such an egalitarian household that I said I must use this opportunity that I've been given and use it well. And I think that has always stayed with me. I mean, it's been many decades now. And the second person I would say was when I went to the US and I was training at Yale University. And I was still very shy. I was in my 20s. I could barely speak. I mean, I would not be on a panel then if you knew me, in my 20s. Of course, my husband doesn't believe this. He thinks I was always this chatterbox. But so I was on, rounds at Yale, and there was an intensivist. She was a woman. She was big, American. Her hair was, all over the place. She was like really an impressive personality, Dr. Catherine. And she was asking questions. And I knew all the answers, but I was whispering the answers. Like you couldn't even hear what I was saying. And she stood there, and all these other guys, these American guys, the other women, they're all like giving these wrong answers with great confidence. And she looked at me and she said, Sunita, if you are not going to speak up, nobody's going to hear you. And I think that stayed with me. And I said, I need to learn to speak up as a woman or as a professional. And I think those moments have really stayed with me. I went back, practiced speaking in front of the mirror, and just decided whether I knew it or not, I was going to stand up and say something. And so I think that for me was an inspiration, and really for all women to learn to just speak up and have our voice be heard.
Wow, that's great. That is very, very. I think that everybody, all women, definitely can relate to that. To speak up and for their voice to be heard. I think that's a very important thing. Um, Mrs. Mathai, if you could please share with us who are the women who would have inspired you in your journey and why, and how they've inspired you, that would be great.
Anu, like all the previous panelists have said, there were many in my life also. Like if you say, starting from my mother, what inspired me of hers is how she dress up. Neatly, she used to dress up in those days. I'm speaking about the days of some 65 years back, 60 to 70 years back. So that neatly dressing up. And the other thing of her cooking. Cooking means everyone, whoever comes to my house, they always appreciate her cooking. Later part, my first standard teacher, when a child has fallen down and how she has taken care of that child and put the child on her lap. So that I was really amazed. I said, oh, the teacher can put the students, even though the student is being mud all around and still they will take them on their lap. But the main person who influenced me is my teacher of my 8th standard, my Hindi teacher of my 8th standard. I would like to tell you that little small story. I don't take much time. Now, I was always an average student, especially for Hindi. I was always on an average. But somehow, one of the unit tests, I got highest mark in Hindi. Then I wondered, I said, how can I get highest mark in Hindi when I am very average in Hindi? And this teacher, she called me and then she said, what that confidence she has instilled in me that particular time. She said, no, you can do wonders. You will grow. You just think about it is not only in Hindi, but even all other subjects also you can try. And that confidential words which she has put on my ears at that particular time, I knew I have never gone back. I'm always first in anything, maybe in this job also, what I can say. And of course, my other one of my mentor and inspirer was my boss when I got a job and all. There, what she used to tell me that believe in you. Don't believe in what others say. Believe in you. Believe in your strength, and that will lead you to success. So these are few people. You can say a number of people, but these are few people inspired me in my life, and because of them, and today I am here.
Wow, thank you very much, Mrs. Mathai. Those are some great stories that you shared with us, and I'm sure And thank you all to the panelists for sharing some very personal stories that of women and women who inspired you. I'm sure all of us can relate. I mean, I'm sure we didn't get here without very strong mothers in our lives. So I can definitely relate to that very much, having come from a home with a very strong mom. Our next question is, I'm going to start with Alka, with you. What gender-specific challenges, I think we all know there's a notion of the glass ceiling and such, right? What's gender-specific challenges and stereotypes or barriers have you had to overcome during your career? I mean, I'm sure you've seen something in the West. I'm sure you've seen something here. So, and given that we have, at least two of you on this panel who have cross-cultural references, I think you guys can pull from that experience and talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've always viewed myself as gender neutral. So I'll start with that. I somehow just don't see myself as, I see myself as a capable person. Having said that, I think a couple of things which I've talked about in another panel is the narrow leadership bind that you have for women. What I mean specifically by that, I think Dr. Sunita referred to it. If you don't speak up, and sometimes women are more hesitant to sort of speak up. They're seen as having less presence or not having a point of view or being a wallflower or whatever it is. But if they speak up and share their point of view, and sometimes are the first to share their point of view, they may be seen as aggressive, too loud. So that's a little bit of you just have a narrower band to operate your leadership style in, which is something I have seen, because when we would performance appraise people or the things like that, that's, hey, she's too quiet. She doesn't have a presence. Unlike the introvertish tag will be put on someone else. So that's definitely one thing I continue to see. The second thing, which was very interesting, is someone told me, hey, don't hire women as you're setting up this, because what if they get married? What if they have kids? It's a small firm. Would it sort of affect the functioning of a small firm? So, it was a little bit taken aback, but those two in particular, and I'm sure there are many, many more instances, but at least the themes are similar for me.
No, thank you. I definitely can relate to at least a couple of those where we're setting up a manufacturing factory right now, manufacturing facility, and oh gosh, I've been told women will go away on maternity leave now. Do you really want to recruit women, right? So no, I get that. Dr. Sunita, thank you so much, Alka. Dr. Sunita, over to you, please. And if you could share again with us what gender-specific challenges, stereotypes, or barriers that you've had to overcome during your career.
Yeah, no, I think I'd second what Alka said about, if we've been blessed to sort of have been at least brought up to not feel there's a barrier with being a woman. And, I always say, we should, the toucan bird, in South America, both parents look after the kids. So then if you can get a spouse who also shares in, responsibilities, then you're all set. Having said that, I think the gender issues I faced were really related to kind of those things, the issues that we have as women if we decide to have a family. And, for the first 18, 20 years when your kids are growing. So I'll give you an example. When my daughter was 3, and I'm a pediatric cardiologist. So as a doctor, we work all day, and in the all the other cardiology is it's very male dominated. So all the other doctors in our division in the hospital were men. So, your day finishes cath lab, outpatient, and then around 5:30, they disappear into this room to smoke cigarettes, have coffee, and read Times of India. Then they emerge at 7 p.m. and start rounds. So, the rounds are ending at 8:30 at night. So this went on a couple of months. I've got a 3-year-old who I'm not seeing at all. So finally, one day I just kind of walked up to the head of the department. I said, "Sir, these are my 6 patients. I have rounded on them. They're all set till tomorrow morning. If there's any problem, this is my cell number, but I'm heading out." And I think he was so taken aback with what I had said. But then I established that, your rules may be what you want in your personal life. I have to have certain different rules. And I think the only gender issues I've really faced are related to this. It was the same even when I joined a larger hospital. I was reaching home at 10 every day, and my daughter, when she was 7, asked me, "Why are the kids at the hospital more important than me?" And I had to go back to the management to say, "You need to get me help, number one. Two, I'm taking Wednesday half days and Saturday half days because I'm going to pick my daughter up at the bus stop." And every Tuesday night, without fail, and every Friday evening, I would be asked, "Oh, so tomorrow's your half day holiday?" And I was like, "No, it's my day to spend a little time with my daughter." So I think, the little barbs you get when you can't really do the same, be on the same playing field as men sometimes is what I've faced. And I've learned to kind of handle it with humor, a lot of laughter, a lot of pushing back, and just making those adjustments. And the other thing they would tell me, there was one cardiologist in particular, "Oh, if you're going to do all this mommy stuff, then your career is not going to progress." So I'm like, "I'm fine. If it doesn't progress, it doesn't progress." So just kind of being able to say,
Yeah,
"Okay, this is a choice I've made, and if it doesn't
right.
suit you, too bad." But I think, we biologically, sorry, we have a uterus. There's certain things we have to do in life. So I
Yeah.
think adjusting those has been, I would say,
Well,
the
yeah, no,
challenge.
I thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Over to you, Mrs. Mathai. What kind of gender specific challenges or stereotypes or barriers have you had to overcome during your career?
Anu, I'm not telling lie, but I didn't face any challenge, gender specific challenge. Maybe our position, I started my career in nursing. So there almost, that it was females were more over there. So there were no much gender specific challenges. But when it forward to the higher post and all, but still there was no gender specific challenges over there. But whatever is there, challenges were from the same gender people only. But I could overcome all those things by virtue of certain characteristic of mind. Like I am a transformational leader. I don't look into here and there, and I don't look or listen to the comments of the other people. And I see that my people I have to develop my people. It's not only in my absence, also my department should run. So I start developing my people from the beginning itself. I start training them. I used to send them for other type of higher education. And then again, I was a task focused leader. It means whatever task have been defined for today, I will see that that is being done today, and then my people also will follow that. And
Thank you.
I always take my people with me and with their cooperation. I never think that this is being done by me. I always think it's done by them. Rather, when my boss also asks me sometimes, not only in this place, but in other place also, "How does it happen? Oh, Gracie, you have done wonderful thing." I said, "No, it's not done by Gracie. It's done by my people. Though I may be the main contributor, but I will say, no, it's done by my people." And that has created a big confidence in my people. And any time they were ready to help me. And of course, my communication style is something different. I never
Yeah.
call anybody to my office. I go to their office. Though they said, no, ma'am, we will come. I said, no. I said, are you free? I'll come to your office. So I ask their free time and then I go to their office and discuss those official matter. And I don't believe in self-branding and all those things like that. I'm already automatically branded. Maybe these type of things might have brought me to this position.
I
Thank you.
love this confidence. I love this confidence that I'm hearing in each one of you. How well said. I love this. And, talking, I mean, Alka, you said, hey, you're very gender neutral, and then listening to Mrs. Mathai, speak. It's not to say that there aren't any barriers, but there are specific fields in which where there are more women. For example, she talked about nursing, and then the fashion industry has more women than it does men. And the scale tips the other way, right? So no, thank you so much for those powerful words right there, Mrs. Mathai. And finally, Poonam, would love to hear your experience in any sort of gender specific challenges or stereotypes or barriers that you might have faced in your journey in your career that you've had to overcome.
Yes, Anna. So, I mean, I just feel that which woman doesn't face it? Like, right from your parents' house to workforce to maybe your in-laws' house. I mean, some place you would have felt it, either subtly or very strongly. I am very happy to hear that Mrs. Mathai did not face it. So that's one lucky woman. So so I've had to face it. Yes, I have been called names. Don't know if this is the right platform to say, but yes, I've been called names. And since I have been moving from a play school to in between a small gig with a foundry that belonged to my father, so over there I faced actual real gender discrimination, where we had a manager, and the entire labor community used to greet him, report to him, ask him. All the decisions were taken by him. They never actually acknowledged us as people who could be bosses or people who could lead a unit. So we never got greeted, and we were called "Sahab ki beti aa gayi hai." Those kind of things. But the best part is because I never saw it in my upbringing, so they never stayed with us, and we never took offense to those, because what can really change perception, because gender equality is takes birth in one's mind, and I loved the way Alka said that she is gender neutral. So obviously, so if your perception is such, you are not going to let it pass on to the other. So that is exactly what my sister and we did when we were handling the unit, and we let it pass, and so that is how the discrimination that
Excellent.
happened.
Excellent. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that viewpoint. No, so great. I mean, I'm very, very touched by all the personal stories and also personal experiences and the honesty that with this panel is really responding to all these questions. So thank you so much, you guys. Now, moving on to the next section of our panel discussion. I'd like to actually start with one specific question to each one of our panelists here. The first question is really about, we've come a long way with women taking on different roles and different industries. And we've come to the era of the empowered woman, right? And for decades, I would say that, yes, we've promoted the notion of work-life balance. And what's happened right now is, as the work from home has evolved, and even more so during the time of the pandemic, the lines really between work and life have sort of, disappeared. I mean, it's all merging into one. The whole day becomes a continuum, right? And so what I'd really like for you, Poonam, to share with us here today is what are some of the best practices that you have followed or created for yourself in creating an environment that allows you for a healthy distinction between work and life, home life? And what kinds of support do you think women should seek from the community? And what can we as women do for one another to support each other?
a very, very relevant and a very valid question. But has this question been ever posed to a man, that how he does a work-life balance, in his life? So, see, at the end of the day, it just boils down to the fact that a woman can be a primary breadwinner, and she has to be a primary caregiver. If a man is a primary breadwinner, he's very rarely a primary caregiver. So the balance, work-life balance, ultimately falls on women. So, so in the, like you asked, Anu, in this era where everything is merging, like the professional and the personal life, there's no space, there's no delineation, no demarcation, because our homes have become smaller work capsules. Husband and wife would be working in the same room, a child would be working in another area. So what is left of a home actually? Now, over here, who's going to be affected most is definitely a woman. Today, I'm facing a work-life balance challenge because there's whitewash happening in my house, and I'm sitting here. So, the questions by a maid would be asked to a woman. A man would rarely say, "Okay, cook this." I mean, a doorbell rings, you have to go and attend to it. So, having said all of that, I think I have just devised a little acronym which can help us stay focused, and it could be under the category of ABCDs. So, how to manage that could be, if we A for attitude. If we wear an addressing attitude, that we want to be like the earlier panelists have said, that we want to be heard and seen. So if we will address what we want, then probably we will be able to balance better. The B is be vocal. Again, one of the panelists mentioned. So if we become vocal, and if we start voicing our hurts as well as our joys, if we start saying, okay, we want to not be disturbed in this time period while you attend to the chores in the house, so that can help us maintain a better life balance. The C is we have to really create a very defined boundary. And that can actually give a lot of peace and happiness to a person, because then for that particular capsule of time, you're not wearing multiple hats. And D would be to actually don't be just me, be we. So basically, inclusivity, like engage everybody, include your children also in your decision making for running, if from the house. So all these four factors can take care of work life balance. Now, going to very quickly going to what support can we take from community and from our peer group. I think it's the best thing that we can do is inclusivity of networking, of tapping into collective wisdom, of maybe I'm calling on this, that let's call men to our forums, to our social events, so that they also call us to theirs, and that can lead to so much of building a better community, because we will be leveraging talent. We will be actually not suppressing the ones who are not coming up, and a teletherapy. So pick up the phone and call your best friend and talk and just feel good, because it's going to give you a surge of a good happy hormone. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I think.
No, that's excellent. No, those are
I'll
some great.
just
Go ahead, Alka.
I'll just add to that. One of the things which I'm still mastering is letting it go. Not everything needs to be perfect, right? And not carrying the guilt, because growing up, I wanted to control everything and make sure everything is buttoned up. And now I'm like, okay, this is ye chalega. This is fine. This I have to pay attention to. I'm not going to be responsible for taking my child out for a walk every day. It's fine if I do it once a week. And that sort of self, not guilting yourself into I have to be the superwoman and perfect woman on all dimensions. It's okay if this presentation is not perfect. It's an internal one. We'll manage it. So I think just letting things go and not keeping the standards so high on every dimension of life that you become a victim of self-induced standards. That has been very, very important for me, and not feeling guilty. Take care, the kid is taking care of itself. I don't have to make him sleep every day. It's fine. or from a work point of view as well. And a lot of people try and reach out to me thinking I'm the decision maker, to, I think, Poonam, your point. And I'm like, no, this person in my team is a decision maker, and so please don't reach out to me. And makes the team feel empowered, and I create time for myself.
Oh, that's great. That's great insight, Alka. And that's a great segue to the next question, which is to you. High achieving woman, right? A high achieving, I mean, those are the traits, right? Guilting yourself and really setting those high standards for yourself. And those are traits of a high achieving woman. And then there are these 5 other traits, I would say, which are, agency, authenticity, connection, clarity, and wholeness that are woven into these career decisions and leadership styles of many women leaders. And collectively, I would say that these themes reveal deeper and more complex images of successful women. Uh, how do these 5 key themes relate to empowering women and women's rights? And also, if you can talk a little bit about, I mean, I talked about this before. I mean, you made partner in McKinsey, and you were a leader there in the West, and then bringing back some of those leadership styles, to India and practicing it here. Just making some references there, I think that would help, because I think there are lots of people, from audiences who've gone through that, coming back and trying to adapt here as well. So yeah, please share your views.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions there. The traits of high achieving women. And again, I'll stress that these are traits of high achievers: being authentic, being accessible. I genuinely believe that each person has their own style. Yeah. Please, we talked about it. You see inspiration everywhere, but Dr. Sunita, Poonam, Gracy, you are different from me. I just cannot meet your standards. I am who I am. So authenticity is, frankly, for everyone, again, not gender. Talking about the differences, what you face here versus the US, I think the level of sophistication of the biases are different, but the biases are similar, right? Yeah. You may use fancy words, you may be diplomatic, but I think somewhere they are similar. The choice is ours, choosing to ignore, choosing to forge your own path. That's what, because there's noise, people will say what they say. Whether it's men or women, you will find mentors. Some women may be your strongest mentors, men may be your strongest. I think we really have to clear our mindset of this gender behaves like this gender behaves like this, or women are this, women. I'm like,
really, what you're saying is get rid of the stereotypes, right?
Get rid of in your own mind, because other people will have it. You cannot please everyone. So I've been blessed to find a group of supporters, many of them men, who have helped me, who have guided me, who have challenged me. So if you're willing to reach out to help, I just see them as people. And I think it's in my mind, which I don't want to be seen as the first thing I tell people, judge me on my capabilities, not on my gender.
Exactly.
And that makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. No, thank you. Thank you so much. That was very good. So the next question goes to our chief dreamer, Sunita. Love, by the way, I cannot tell you, when I saw the title, I was just so excited. What a great title, Loop Closer and Chief Dreamer.
I have to tell you, Anu, my title used to be only Chief Dreamer. And then, a client who came to visit said, how come Chief Dreamer? So I'm like, yeah, you're right. There's no hierarchy in dreaming. So I should change it. I'm planning to change it to Dreamer. And then I realized without loop closing, nothing happens. That's how the loop closing got added in.
Oh, great. So I would say that, it's all about us trying to share. The reason why we're here today is to share our stories, personal stories, to those new generation leaders, right? And so what specific skill sets, I mean, if you had to dial back and talk to your 20 or 30-year-old self, which you mentioned incidentally in the previous when you were answering the previous question. What would you tell yourself, right? If you had to go back and dial back, and what specific skill sets can a millennial and Gen Z women develop in early phases of their careers to contribute successfully in this era?
No, I think that's a great question. As I gave that example in the beginning of
Yep.
Dr. Catherine telling me, speak up, I think learning to communicate. So if I look back for me, the last 20 years, I've learned to communicate. So I think starting that young, learning to be able to succinctly put down our thoughts either on PPT or email or verbally is a huge skill set. And, I find today when I interview people, we're not looking at their marks in 10th grade or 12th grade. You're looking at whether they can communicate effectively. So I would say that's one big skill set. Another skill set I think in today's world really is, you know, uh, it's kind of like when you're in school, you do your homework, but you do it because the teacher tells you to. But I think learning to do your homework as a leader or as a worker, so coming prepared to the meetings, coming prepared to work, is a very a good skill set. Learning to look at details and be attention. Having that attention to detail, taking the time to do that. That's very important because I think as you grow and you become a leader, of course you delegate, and learning to delegate is a key skill because I think we all, we tend to do a lot and it's easier when we can trust ourselves. But when you want to be a leader, you have to learn to delegate. But delegating and yet auditing, delegating and yet checking, delegating and yet making sure it was done, is comes from, and I think finally I'll say a key skill set, which is learning how to manage one's time and energy. So I know we talk about time management, but I would also say, time and energy management. It comes from kind of learning those skills to get organized, to plan for the next day, to plan for what we've got to get completed, to check whether things were done. So we're not running around like little hamsters in a cage. So I guess planning, getting organized, managing our time and managing our energy, and being able to communicate, I would say, are key skill sets. Having said that, you do need domain. So I think having that lifelong ability to keep learning a new, I mean, I learned PowerPoint in my 20s, right? Today we may need to learn another skill. We're all learning other skills of online and so on. So I think being open, staying open, even as you grow and become a leader, and continuously learning, having that kind of thing that I don't know it all, and hey, it's another day, and I get to learn something new, maybe by doing a course, maybe by reading, maybe by attending something, but keeping the student alive in us as we grow up the leadership track. I would say, was that too many tips? But anyway, a
No,
combination of all.
that's great. I mean, I was going to count, and we almost had 10 there. No, so that's great. Very insightful. I hope that we can actually put these out at the end of the session so people can use these as takeaways from this session, right? Whether it's delegating attention to detail, or being prepared for every session meeting, being organized, or self-management at the end of it all, and learning how to communicate. I think you said it all very beautifully. Thank you so much. The next question I have here is to Alka. So we talked about, Alka, you mentioned, there are these notions out there. People have all of these notions, and we all know that networking is a very important part of creating those opportunities for yourself in a corporate world, paving the way for your career. And there's been a notion of, men having their own network, the old boys network. And studies have really shown that truly, women who want to further themselves really should look at, they can benefit from creating a network and leveraging that network, and more importantly, having a smaller group of friends, an inner circle of friends who they look upon either as mentors, whom they can draw upon, to give them career advice. But I did hear something from you from the previous conversation that you had a lot of men. And I personally, I feel the same way. You don't have to limit yourself to all women in terms of mentors. But I think that having that network is very crucial and critical. So I'd like to ask you this question: how should women approach networking and building their community, the right mentors, so that they're able to achieve the job transitions, create opportunities for themselves, especially in a corporate environment, and even also as entrepreneurs, right? I mean, especially having a network as an entrepreneur is very critical and important. And have you found that having a smaller and a tighter network of women has helped you build your career? And specifically, what kind of networking tactics have you actually used to or leverage for your professional growth?
Yeah. Actually, I would say for me, relationship building comes naturally to me. Part of it is I just help people. Anyone who has reached out to me for anything, I literally stop and say, can I help this person in some way? Whether it's an introduction, whether it's a piece of advice, whether it is sharing a thought. And it has come back and paid me dividends multi-years after. I forgot about it. And it wasn't approached with the idea I'm developing network. It was not approached with the idea. It's like, hey, this person seems I can help, and let's talk about it and just pay it forward. You don't even think about it. So that's one thing. The other thing is I'm not shy to ask for help. What's the worst someone can do? They can say no, and no harm done. So I'm not shy to say, hey, this, what you do here is really interesting. Would you take some time to share it with me? And most people are very receptive to a conversation like that. So there's no hesitation. I don't think of it, hey, he's the CEO here, or hey, he's connected to me, or hey, might have heard about me in this thing. It doesn't matter. And it allows you to sort of say, hey, this is something specific. You obviously don't want to waste people's time. So you want to be very aware of that fact. And if that person says, hey, I don't have the time, it's okay. There will be other opportunities. So for me, networking is not seen with the intent of networking. And in the process of networking, I've made friends. Some of them have remained networks. People have fallen off the bandwagon. Who was my mentor 20 years back? He still brings a smile to my face, but I have nothing in common. So it's not that I have to carry the same mentors all my life. People come, people go. I don't have to hold. Friends come, friends go, not just because things have happened between us. So it's a state of mind. One adage I will use here is to be interesting. You have to be interested, and the other way around, right? So just work on yourself, things will happen, and just be kind. It'll come back in spades.
No, well said. Well said. I think this ties it very nicely back to what Sunita said, a continuous process of learning and self-development, and creating that environment that is a part of that self-development and personal growth, and the community that you take along with yourself. I think that then translates to your community that you can leverage upon, right? No, very well said. Very well said. I think this will be the final question for the session today. The courage to lead. I would say this is to Mrs. Mathai. I would say that in the past, most of the leaders in the past have been men. And women always had the notion that they had to somehow emulate the leadership style of men in order to be successful. However, I would say that women naturally are powerhouses of strength and courage, right? I mean, and so Mrs. Mathai, what do you think, and how can we as women draw upon our natural abilities and unique strengths to be an effective leader, and what inner dimensions of leadership should women draw upon, right, in order to be effective leaders?
Anu, it's a very beautiful question, and it's actually, especially the young leaders should know also for their future success. See, when you think about the dimensions, there are n number of dimensions. none of us can live with one dimension or one or two like that. We must have a multi-dimensional approach to various things, like maybe pioneering, energizing, affirming, including, deliberate, whatever you take, there are a number of dimensions. But to me, among all these dimensions, I just say that I give more important to three more important dimensions. One is the pioneering dimension. The pioneering dimension, they people are action oriented, so we have to be action oriented, and then we have to draw new opportunities wherever new opportunities are there. You have to capture and you have to go into that. You should not shy away and go away from that. And of course, you have to be passionate about your work, whichever work, whatever work, whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you are an employee of any organization, like what somebody was telling earlier, like it may be your maid. So whatever work you are doing, that you have to be passionate on your work and be optimistic always. That's what in my dictionary, that impossible word is not there. I don't know how that is gone. So be optimistic. Everything is possible. And have our own confidence. We must have confidence in us. Same way, we must have confidence in our own people. And we also have to be some way little creative also, so that our followers or people who are with us, and they are also will be creative. And then you should be in a position to accept those creativeness among them and be kind and supportive, like Alka as well as Sunita was telling about. Yes, supportive. Whoever come to you or your subordinates, be kind and supportive to them. And always we must have an eye to see the good thing among the people. See, there are very n number of negative aspect. Maybe they are positive. Forget about those negative aspect of one particular person, X, Y, Z. Look into the positive aspect of that particular person, and then you try to encourage them into those positive aspects. What will happen? Gradually, they also will have a feeling in their own mind, I should come out of my negative feeling also. So automatically you can bring that person to success. Along with that, you have to be flexible. Whatever leader you have, your people should feel that easily approachable. They can come to you. And then you also have to be little more tolerant. Not that as soon as someone has come to you, you bounce on them. No, the people will not come to you. Now see, if you are tolerant and if you are a good listener, people will come to you with new ideas and you will become big, not that they. So that we must think about. As I told you earlier also, I think my subordinates and my staff are my strength. So let us all think that we are here not because of our mercy or our greatness or our knowledge or our skill. It's all because of those people who work for us. So we have to be very kind to them. At the same time, you have to be systematic, you have to be quality oriented, because anything quality has its own value. And then your problem solving ability has to be very objectively, you have to see, you should accurately sense the thing what is going wrong, and there you have to smell it immediately, and then you should see that corrective measures are taken immediately, no delay in anything like that. And of course, a relationship oriented and an affectionate person with sound skill and knowledge will be a successful person in their life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that truly, I think you've succinctly summarized the different aspects of becoming an effective leader while drawing upon the strength and courage of naturally, while drawing upon the strength and courage, be it pioneering, energizing, affirming, or resolving, analytical, commanding, all of that put together, but most importantly, governed by kindness and being accessible and approachable to everybody and being there to help everybody, as opposed to, really being, more or less being a person with a stick in their hand, if you will. So no, this is great. So I think that we've run out of time now, and there's barely 30 seconds, so I'd like to wrap this up. So to all our panelists, I'd like to say, what a vibrant group of women. Thank you so much. It has been a great, I mean, I hope the audience has had many takeaways from this very dynamic discussion. And before we depart for the, from the panel, I'd like to say, not only say thank you to these wonderful, to all you wonderful women and strong women, but also probably give a shout out to all the men who stood behind all these women, all of us women who've actually, had a great run so far. So happy Women's Day to all the men and women, or maybe I should say women and men. So thank you once again, and thank you for making this panel a very interesting panel and very informative panel. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so
Ciao,
much,
ciao.
Anand. You were lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.